Hi, friends, welcome. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping in. And if you haven't already done so, please hit this subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a YouTube friend. So, we've been talking a lot about different things. And so today, I just wanted to spend some time and talk about something that I feel like really shapes how we move through the world. And so this is our mindset, right? So this isn't about like fake cheerfulness or pretending to have positive vibes. It's like your actual mindset. So, your personal mental framework that you look through to interpret your entire life. The way that we view things just completely changes how we feel, it changes how we react. And over time, our brain rewires itself to how we choose to act and feel about situations. Basically, your mindset is the story that your brain tells you about your life. It's not always necessarily the truth, it's the way you're looking at it and interpreting it. So, this would be like the beliefs that you carry about not only other people, but even yourself. Like, what do you think is possible? And, we've talked about it before. The brain loves patterns. So, once it gets used to a certain mindset, whether that is a hopeful mindset or a fearful mindset, negative, positive, however you want to see it, calm, anxious, whichever way your brain kind of gets used to, then your brain automatically starts reinforcing it. But the nice thing with it is that it also means that if you have a mindset that is hurting you, it doesn't have to be permanent. It's only permanent if you choose for it to be, because you can retrain your brain. Neuroplasticity, we've talked about this before, it is very real, and you can literally teach your brain to think in a new way. One of the biggest differences with mindset is fixed versus growth, right? So we've heard these things a lot before, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So a fixed mindset is that mindset that believes, well, this is just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. This is just how I am. I can't change. This is who I am. This is how I was made. Or I'm just not good at this. And then that person with a growth mindset, in turn, is that person that says, oh, I'm going to try this. I bet I can learn. I can adapt. Like, I can get through this. It might feel hard, but I can get through it, right? So, people look at this and think that, oh, this is like this toxic positivity. But in actuality, it is just simply flexibility. And people with this growth mindset, it's not that they are ignoring reality, they're instead just refusing to let a single moment define their entire life. And that right there is so important. You don't let a single moment define your entire life. And making like these small shifts to help yourself get from a fixed to a growth mindset can totally change the way you cope in situations. It can change the confidence that you have. It can change how you view your relationships. And it is honestly that first piece of gaining emotional resilience. When you approach life in this like fear-based or negative mindset, you know, those people that are like, oh, here we go again. Oh, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. When you approach life that way, you flood your brain with cortisol, which we've talked about over and over. That is your stress hormone. So you're flooding your brain with your stress hormone. And then you take that amygdala, again, we talked about the brain smoke detector, and you're turning it on. You're putting it at high alert. And then that prefrontal cortex, so that's that part that we've talked about before, that piece that helps you think clearly, that's your rational brain, then it goes offline. And so instead of responding, what do? You react. And then after a while of giving this, it can be small. It doesn't have to be a huge event. It's just moment after moment of putting this into your brain, then suddenly that becomes your brain's default pattern. But when you intentionally shift your mindset to be more balanced and more grounded, like I'm not talking about fake happy, pretending everything's okay when it's not. I am just talking about calmer, like thinking about the things that you say, you know, changing those thoughts just a little bit. And then you can literally rewire your brain. You can make that prefrontal cortex activate more easily. You can make your nervous system less jumpy. All the things we've been talking about, right? And when you do this, you gain some space between your feeling and your reaction. And that is the goal. Space between feeling and reaction, because that space in the middle, that's where you're able to think and you're able to rationally act and respond as opposed to just reaction. That tiny little space in there, like that's where your peace lives. That's where you make better choices, right? And all of these little tiny actions of mindset helps to reshape your biology in your brain. When you're thinking about things, right? Your mindset, it's deciding what meaning you're going to give to things, right? So the meaning is not just automatic. You choose the meaning. And that's where you can have two people who go through the exact same experience. You have one person that's like, this is failure, this is loss, right? And then you have another person in that same experience that's like, oh, this is learning. You know what? I'm going to take away the lessons, throw out the garbage. You know, they find strength that they didn't know they have to get through those moments. And the truth is, neither person is wrong. It's just the mindset or the meaning that they're given to what happened. It's the way they choose to interpret that moment, and it's their own personal mental lens. And it's why mindset is so powerful. The mindset can completely change the meaning of your experience. And when you change that mindset, you're actually changing your emotional reality. Because the person whose emotional reality is, it's hard, but I can get through it, is just as true as the person's emotional reality that says, oh, this makes me a failure. It's all about what you choose to tell yourself. And, you know, we all have this inner voice, and what we choose to tell ourselves with that inner voice absolutely matters. And not only does it matter in what you tell yourself about circumstances or things that happen, the way you speak to yourself also becomes the environment in which you live every single day. So if you're talking bad to yourself, that is the way your mind is seeing you. And many of us, we say things to ourselves that we would never say to a friend. We would kick somebody's butt if they said that to our friend or our child or our brother or our sister, but we tell it to ourselves every day. And, a healthy mindset isn't about pretending that you're perfect, acting like you do no wrong. Instead, it is about just gently telling yourself things like, I can get through this. My absolute favorite is, this moment is not the whole story. And I had to spend the last 3 years reminding myself of that. This moment is not the whole story. And guess what? It wasn't the whole story. Not at all. You got to remind yourself that you deserve peace. I deserve peace. And this one I used on myself today. It's, I don't have to believe every thought. Those intrusive little thoughts, those little sucker thoughts, they're gonna pop in. But you just remind yourself that I don't have to believe every thought. And this is how you change your mindset and you help to heal. Because at the end of the day, anxiety, it loves a negative mindset, because that's basically what it is, right? Anxiety is that negative mindset. What if this goes wrong? But you know what? What if it goes right? And that's what you got to tell yourself. What if everything works out? What if this bad moment is only temporary? What if I'm actually not powerless? And you tell yourself these things, you just shift it over, and then all of a sudden your nervous system starts to follow, and you get that little gap, you get that little space in there that allows you to take a breath and think more clearly. I've said this before, the mind leads, the body responds. The mind leads and the body responds. So important. And, listen, I get it. We can't always control the first thought. Like I said, I dealt with it today. But what we can control is the thought we choose to have next, right? And then the thought we choose to have after that. And then the thought we choose to have after that. The tools that we use for anxiety, for changing our mindset, they're all the same. We've been talking about them over and over. It's that reframing, right? This is overwhelming. No, it's not overwhelming. This is a little challenging, but you know what? I've handled worse things. I've done this before, right? Taking that minute to slow down and breathe. Gratitude in tiny doses. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, just tiny doses. This is what I'm grateful for. Yeah, you know what? I might have two flat tires, but I'm grateful that I got over to the side of the road safely. I'm grateful that my car didn't blow up. And, being kind to yourself, reminding yourself that struggling is human. It is not failure. To struggle is human. It does not mean failure. And, one of the biggest things that I think we need to do more of is instead of judging, instead being curious, right? So, why am I feeling this way? What is it that I actually need to do? And I know that all of this sounds so simple, but it literally shifts your neural pathways. So, go out into the world, change your mindset, and I know you might not control the first thought, but make yourself control the second thought or the third thought. Just step back and make yourself be curious. Ask the questions, control the thought. I love you, friends. I hope you have a blessed and beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.